I'd like to say a particular hello this morning to the first people who click on the message that we send out to say that we're live, even before we actually go live. You people, you are my favourite people in the world, because you are the ones who are ready. You are the Boy Scouts. You are the ones who got dressed early and went up and got ready for stuff way in advance. You're the ones who packed the sandwiches, who made them the night before. Hey, look, and there's me. Not even the sound turned down. There's a bit of a delay, it turns out, on Facebook. We had the phones up because we were listening to international commentary of Will Grigg's goal.
Yeah, beating Manchester City last night, and it was a bit of a fluke. It was
Shut up!
It was a good goal.
Shut up!
But he slips.
You're completely underwhelmed by this. This is how it happens. This is how one of the shittest teams in English football beats one of the greatest, most expensively assembled teams in the history of the world.
Yeah, they have to score a shit goal.
What?
It was a good break.
It was a great goal.
He slips.
What else is he supposed to do? There's only one tiny portion of the earth that ball can enter at that particular second in time.
Yeah. And if Will Grigg...
Time is a flat circle, and he's got to get it right in the bottom of that flat circle.
But it's weird, because it seems to me that he goes straight for the bottom corner, whereas if he deliberately meant to find that bottom corner, he would have tried to curl it around the goalkeeper. So he slips, he punts the ball, and it goes straight into the bottom corner. Keeper doesn't do great either, let's face it. But it's a good break from Will Grigg. He kind of shows up Kyle Walker.
What happened to you? Being suckled on the teat of Kerry football, where you're like, oh, well, I mean, of course we should win all the time. That has ruined you. You can't experience joy.
No, I am. I'm joyful for Wigan.
Like,
I'm joyful for the fact that they played Oasis out over the Tannoy after they beat Manchester City, which was quite funny. I'm not so joyful for the way a fan taunted Sergio Aguero after the game and incited an angry reaction from Aguero, though.
We can have a look at the Aguero reaction. So people are actually hammering the press for covering this story the way it's being covered at the moment, where Aguero is he's on the back pages of most of the newspapers this morning. I think we can have a look at the video. Yeah. So keep an eye out for Aguero there on the ground, I think. Okay, I have no idea where
Guy's
Aguero
taking a
is.
selfie with him right now.
Is he on the bottom left?
No, in the middle of your left of your picture. There he is.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. There he is. Like, they should have let him go and have a scrap. That would have been interesting. Proper pitch invasion, 1980 style. So maybe we can actually just, when this is finished, we can watch it again, so I can point out where Sergio Aguero is from the start. Can we have another go at that? So Aguero is right in the middle. He's kind of there. There's that group of people in the middle.
There's
he's walking
the selfie.
off.
And it's not that guy, it's the other guy who comes up now. Or the guy in the green jacket.
Yeah. And he puts his hands on him. And then one of the Wigan players is actually holding Aguero back. Hold me back. Don't hold him back. Let him go for it. And, I mean, I don't think anybody's really going to ban him for many games, are they?
Imagine what a sad existence it must be that you've just beaten Manchester City, one of the greatest results in your post-Premier League club's history. I know it's a short history at that, but it is the best result that Wigan have enjoyed since getting relegated from the Premier League. And the first thing you think is, I'm going to pick a fight with one of their players. Go and enjoy it yourself. There's no need to go over to Sergio Aguero and say whatever he said. I'm pretty sure we can all guess along the lines of what he might have said to Sergio Aguero. There's no need for that.
Let me spin you forward to the first Sunday in September, as it's going to be this year, and Kerry have just beaten Mayo, and you happen to be sitting beside Kevin Kilbane and Nathan Murphy. What's your first impulse? To go and celebrate with your teammates, your co-supporters?
Yes.
Or to turn around and go, I've listened to your crap all year. You're a disgrace, you two.
But that's the difference. I don't think that Wigan fan has been listening to crap from Manchester City fans all year. He hasn't felt this as like an act of revenge. This is kind of like something that he thinks in his head, this would be a good idea to do. I actually feel the urge.
No, he's a complete scumbag.
That I'm not happy enough to have won this game on our own team's merits. This isn't good enough. I need to go and get pleasure out of rubbing it in Sergio Aguero's face.
Yeah.
Like, that is just a poor way to view sport. Like, what is the point?
Yeah.
Fair enough, okay, if somebody's been rubbing it in his face, if there's a Kevin Kilbane or a Nathan Murphy who's, like, supporting Manchester City and is like, yeah, you're a shit, you're in League One.
Yeah.
And that might be an act of revenge, but it's not an act of revenge, it's just an act of stupidity.
No, there's a gaping chasm in that man's life where his soul should be.
Exactly.
And he's not going to fill it by taunting multi-millionaire Sergio Aguero, one of the greatest strikers in the history of the Premier League.
Yeah, I wonder, is he going to change his Twitter handle to Absolute Legend or something in the wake of last night's act of legendaryism? that him and his lad friends would have acted out on Sergio Aguero.
Cantona got about 6 months, as somebody on Facebook there. A bit different from Cantona. Cantona enters the crowd, and it was the first time anybody had ever seen it, and they had to throw the book at him. And also, it was Eric Cantona who didn't really defend himself properly. All Cantona really had to do was come out and say I was racially abused in that instance, and I'm sure he would have had a far more lenient. But he didn't. He was like, and the seagull follows the trawler, blah blah blah. And so there was no sense of defending himself. It was like, well, I don't need to defend myself, do I?
Also, he kung fu kicked a guy. Sergio Aguero didn't kung fu kick a guy. I think he's going to...
There's a scale there.
There is a huge scale of violence. And
there's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
A little bit later on, we're going to be joined in the studio by Shane Williams, the Welsh rugby legend, who was in studio with us talking to us a little bit about the role of the back three and defending against England, how to attack against England, and also a little bit about how he actually beats players. He was kind of interesting in that and trying to fix players with a look and kind of... I had already had them beaten in my head before I would go for it. Craig Breen finished second in a World Rally Championship event at the weekend on the snow in Sweden. It's a remarkable story that Craig Breen has, and he's going to join us a little bit later on in the show as well. So if you haven't seen any footage of this, you should dig some of it out. It's all over YouTube and Twitter. And it's definitely worth a quick look after our show is over, of course. We'll bring you through the newspapers. We're going to hear from Peter O'Mahony, who was in front of the assembled media yesterday. And we'll also be talking, of course, Chelsea against Barcelona in the Champions League tonight. We may as well start with the back pages and the fact that Manchester City are out.
Yeah.
The quadruple is not going to happen.
Let's start with the Irish Examiner. Giant Killers reads the headline, where there's a Will Grigg, there's a way for Wigan as Grigg goal dumps City out of cup. There he is on the ground, slipping as he strikes that ball.
Oh, it's beautifully balanced. I'm about to get tackled here. I need to shield the ball with my body and curl it into the far post.
Yes, of course. I'm clearly incorrect here. On the back of the Evening Herald, it says, City flipped the wig. Their Pep star is burnt by Cook's League One leaders.
Is he the Wig? Is that his nickname?
No, Wigan.
Oh, good point.
Jesus. It really is early. The Irish Times Sports Tuesday. Unlikely giant killers Wigan dash City's quadruple dream. Grigg's winner with 11 minutes remaining. Ends Guardiola's hope.
It was two bald men. I thought that's a bit Harris, isn't it? But actually, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. I'm just moving swiftly on. To
putting the wig in Wigan.
That's definitely the worst thing that has happened on the show, and that it really is saying something. On the Irish Daily Star, Pep's goose is cooked. Guardiola fury as Grigg KOs City. Aguero lashes out at Wigan fans. I actually don't know. I presume it's just a saying your goose is cooked.
Pep's goose is cooked. Why is the goose cooked?
Well, maybe.
Oh, Paul Cook.
No, I'm not sure. If anybody, I'd say they just mean in the general sense of last night, his goose was cooked as a result of that goal from Will Grigg. Pep's Strop Boys. Now that is the headline of the morning. Tabita morning to you indeed. FA Cup sensation. Wigan Athletic 1, Manchester City 0. Mayhem as Minnows end City's quad bid. While on the back of the Mirror, it's Aguero. Raging Sergio clashes with fans after Grigg goal and City's quadruple dream.
It's a pretty bad sign when the tabloids are outthinking you of a morning. The tabloid headlines are like, I can't work these out.
Yeah, it
Paul
really
Cook is the manager of Wigan.
Yes.
Pep's goose cooked.
Ah, sorry. Yeah, I thought the pun was on the word goose.
I'm like, they got it from nowhere.
Yeah.
Cook. What can we do with Cook? Too many cooks.
Yeah. Those 6 newspapers really haven't done anything.
Goose is cooked. I've got it. Where's the goose, lads?
Our IQ really hasn't been shown in a great light over those last 6
back of
pages.
Sleep, that's what I'm claiming. You've got no excuse. 4 Lions back for Wales. Wales, who were 11-point underdogs when we started banging on about the fact that that was ridiculous, are still only 9-point underdogs. This despite the fact Faletau, Bigger, Halfpenny and Williams are all fit and available for selection, not to mention George North. So that would be 5 Lions added to their team from the England game. And remember, England beat them at home, playing really well with a 2-try head start, 12-6. So I'm just saying.
How much has the spread gone in the last 24 hours?
2 points from 11 to 9. Well, it went to 10, now it's 9. So they've gone from 4 to 1 to pretty much 3 to 1. Furious City self-destruct, and then there's obviously that. And then England wear hot pants. This is a story that, I don't know, right? This all sounds like marginal gains bullshit to me.
What is this?
England are wearing hot trousers. George wears the heated trousers for England's 12-6 victory over Wales at Twickenham. Ben Teo, the replacement centre, also sports the trousers, which can produce 40 centigrade heat to ensure that players' legs remain warm on the bench. They've also They're now the fittest team in the world, England, according to their...
In sport or in rugby?
In rugby, I mean, but like, why would you limit yourself with just rugby? Because they put a mound up at training, so now they scrummage up a mound. Other notable teams who have a mound are Michigan, the Dallas Cowboys, and loads of other teams have mounds and hills. Like, just seems a little marginal gains bullshit to me.
Well, if...
You've got hot trousers.
Okay, so either A...
We're the fittest team in the world, we've got hot trousers.
Okay, so either A, the marginal gains actually work, that the hot trousers give you a marginal gain, or the mound gives you a marginal gain, or B, it doesn't work, but you think they work, and the placebo effect gives you a psychological boost over your opponent. So it's a win-win.
Sometimes there's a C. Anyway, Gatland to fire heavy artillery at Ireland. Yes, he is. This is like, if Warren Gatland could have, you know, just waited and picked him, who would I pick my strongest team for? It would be Ireland.
Yes.
And the IRFU. And the bunch of people who he considers stabbed him in the back. Gatland to fire heavy artillery at Ireland is the lead on the Irish Indo this morning. Milan shut down Walsh Park and give it a total revamp. He's right. Waterford legend John Milan has called for a total revamp of Walsh Park and expressed serious concern at its viability as a venue for this year's Munster Senior Hurling Championship round robin games. What was somebody talked about the quality of the pitch, not fit for grazing cattle. Was that it yesterday?
I think it was mentioned somewhere. It might have been Tommy Walsh. No, I don't want to say...
No, it was Shane, wasn't it?
It was Shane.
McGinley also puts Lahinch in the Irish Open frame. This would be great. Paul McGinley wants to take the Dubai duty-free Irish Open to Lahinch when he plays host to the event next year. Like, it does feel like we should be angling for that swing when the British Open is on and we have the best links courses in the world, as good as theirs, showing everybody this. And because there's a load of courses that could be anywhere in the world that are beautiful courses to play on, but look exactly the same as a course in America. So why not give people peculiarly Irish stuff? Perfect game. Conte tells his Chelsea team to beat Chelsea. Sorry, Conte tells his Chelsea team to beat Barca.
Like, what else is he going to tell them?
Get a draw maybe, but like still.
The perfect game is probably what he's telling them. They need to play the perfect game, as we often hear.
Come on.
Yeah, well,
Messi out to end drought. This is a crappy stat that Leo Messi hasn't scored against Chelsea, but there's proper news in the front of the Racing Post. Ballymore next for Sam Crow. The humming and hawing is over. Sam Crow will run in the Ballymore rather than the Supreme at next month's Cheltenham Festival. And Apple's Jade is going to swerve the Sunbet Stairs hurdle to defend her Mayor's hurdle crown. So that's Eddie O'Leary's come out and given some details on that. And then Will Griggs on fire. Where did these guys they're clever at the Guardian. City dumped out of the cup by Wigan after Delph sees red. Was the red card a red card?
Yes, it was. And all this nonsense about the referee having the yellow card out beforehand. Maybe the referee just took a couple of extra seconds in his own mind, despite the fact that he was surrounded by Wigan players, and decided, yes, the correct decision here is a red card. Because it was a red card, and Pep has been giving out about these sort of tackles all season. Fabian Delph does one, he deserves to go. And
then this one here. Calling Moyes, Jones invites Scott into England's Calcutta Cup camp.
Yeah, because
Wow.
David Moyes will provide some sort of unique insight into the mind of a Scottish person.
So just explain for everybody what's going on here. Eddie Jones, with his psyops, pick on the young opposition out half, crush him the next day. Your team goes, yeah, we can crush this guy. This week it's like, turn to managerial genius, David Moyes. Scotland are like, oh no, David Moyes, that's exactly what we're going to do. He got our line-out calls.
I don't have any problem with David Moyes, as kind of an idea, as kind of a non-rugby mind to bring into a camp. My problem is that the reason behind it is that they feel that, a Scottish man who works in England and whose most of his managerial career has been spent in England will give us some sort of insight into the mind of a Scottish person. And how is that relevant? How is the Scottish mind different from the English mind? How will he provide an insight into the Scottish rugby team? I don't know, but he is a coach who's managed for a couple of decades. He's had failures, which are important. He's had successes, which are also important.
Yeah. So Eddie Jones and Steve Borthwick apparently are big on taking advice from other sports and sampling other sporting cultures to try and learn things, which is absolutely fair enough. Rugby is still only a sport that, as a professional sport, is 25 years old, whatever. So obviously you look around to see what you can get. But I'm sorry, one of the newspapers this morning, and I can't remember which one it was, quoted the fact that they're so far already planning about what life is going to be like in Japan for the World Cup that they went and they spoke to Danny Mills to find out what life in Japan would be like. Danny Mills was part of the World Cup in 2002, which was in Japan. And so their extensive research involves sitting down with Danny Mills to go, what was it like being in Japan in the World Cup in 2002? Because that's exactly the same as what it's going to be like when the Rugby World Cup is on in Japan in 2019. That's despite the fact Eddie Jones and Steve Borthwick actually coached in Japan.
Eddie Jones called me the other day and he says he wants me to be part of his backroom team because I played Pokemon while I was a 7-year-old, which was made in Japan. So I've got a very good insight into that country.
I'm calling bullshit on the marginal gains around, which is now starting to propagate and self-perpetuate the crap around the English rugby team.
I hear. I'm having the hot pants, but I'm not having David Moyes.
Well, what about Danny Mills?
Danny Mills is one of the worst sporting stories we've heard. Like, what is that? That is just idiotic in the extreme.
I've got to find exactly which newspaper that is and quote tweet it and send it out a little bit later on and see exactly what everybody thinks about it. So, yeah. That's my take on where the newspapers are this morning.
Maybe Japan is a vastly different place when you're only there for a tournament. Maybe it just takes on...
As opposed to when you're actually, like, when you've coached there.
Well...
When you know the Japanese team. When you brought them to a World Cup.
Maybe the country is just a different place when you're a regular citizen in the place, as Eddie Jones was. A working man in Japan is not the same as a Danny Mills and his squad in Japan. So why was it Danny Mills that was chosen from that group of people?
Maybe because he was
Why not Sven?
Or Beckham.
Or Beckham. Or Gareth Southgate, maybe? Why wouldn't you bring him into the mix? He was involved in O2, wasn't he?
Southgate has actually spoken to them.
Yeah, like, because he obviously provides the double whammy of having expertise of a youth setup and what the FA are doing as opposed to what the IRFU or the RFU are doing, I should say. There's numerous other options than Danny Mills, but I can't believe I'm even considering this because like the notion that somebody who is involved in the O2 World Cup could give some insight to Japan that Eddie Jones doesn't already have is clearly ludicrous.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Why doesn't he ask Roy Keane?
I mean, that would be... It would be about as relevant.
It would be. It really would be. And maybe he would get some insight into March 17th as well. The mind of the Irish, the fighting Irish. It's like, does he bring David Moyes in and is like, wow, is he expecting some sort of, you know... Who
would be the Irish person who goes in the week of the game, the way David Moyes is going in the week of the... Who could we send in as a Trojan horse?
It's a good question. It'll have to be somebody based over there.
Or who would actually just go and do it. And I'd say Bob Geldof would happily rock up and go, just fucking express yourselves.
Yeah, but Geldof or Bono, I think, would be a
good
Bono,
shout. We could send Bono in.
Our beacon of hope. Because everybody around the world is like, oh, Bono, he's Irish, everybody loves him, everybody worships at the feet of Bono in Ireland. So whatever he's thinking, everybody in Ireland must be thinking because they worship this guy. So, as you say, like, it'd be great if he was some sort of Trojan horse, but it would be a very involuntary one. He wouldn't know it, but he would have fulfilled the method of a Trojan horse perfectly.
That's pretty harsh. Moyes speaking to the English this week is the biggest Scottish betrayal since the Bruce and Wallace, says John McHugh. Does it feel, I wonder if you're Scottish, you actually feel a little bit like, hang on a second, what the hell are you doing good in this week?
Is Moyes a rugby man? Does he, like, look around and support Stuart Hogg and the boys? Is he a big fan? I'm not quite sure, actually.
It's like, why not, you know?
Most of the Scottish football people seem to be, don't they? Like, isn't Ferguson big into the rugby?
Don't know.
No? Maybe I'm just making that up.
Don't remember seeing him in any games.
Yeah, well, like, it is a betrayal. You've clearly let everybody down, unless they've had this very conversation that we've had in Scotland, and we're like, let's send David Moyes in there. Let's send a letter from an unmarked source saying you should bring David Moyes into your backroom team.
Yeah, the weird thing is Borthwick was actually a Preston fan and grew up watching them. So maybe he's actually just a Preston kid. And so he has been a Moyes fan since Moyes managed at Preston. Or
maybe the whole kind of bringing him in because he's Scottish thing is just made up by the media, and maybe David Moyes is just being brought in because he's David Moyes and, as I say, has a lot of experience at top level sport.
Yeah, I know, but it is an odd week, right? You get him in before the Italy game, you get him in before the France game.
Well, they're going to hammer Italy, and they have hammered Italy. You don't need to bring in any expertise on Moyes' level if we're calling it that.
Yeah.
Because I think Moyes is... Like, I know I would have been openly critical of him before he got the West Ham job, but now I'm starting to realise that he's a very rounded sporting personality, that all the failures that he's had makes him a very attractive proposition for any sort of consultancy. It's like he's been there. He's seen how bad sport can get.
I'm just looking at Wigan's results in the FA Cup. They beat Bournemouth, they beat West Ham, and now they've beaten Man City.
Yeah, fair play to them. Well done.
They could now put all their eggs in the FA Cup basket and miss promotion to the Championship.
I think Wigan sit 4th on the table of victories against Manchester City since 2013.
Right.
I think only Arsenal, Liverpool, maybe Manchester United, maybe Chelsea are ahead of them. Wigan have 4 wins, I think, since 2013. Obviously the FA Cup final, another FA Cup win, and maybe one Premier League result thrown in there as well.
Right, okay. Let's move on. Some rugby for you. Shane Williams is in studio next. The Welsh record try scorer and British and Irish Lion has teamed up with Guinness to announce plans to give Welsh fans a welcome with a difference in advance of Ireland's NatWest Six Nations clash with Wales on Saturday the 24th of February. Guinness have partnered with the well-known Dublin pub Paddy Cullen's to change its name to Shane Williams for the day as a nod to the Welsh legend and creating a new Welsh home-from-home destination for a pre-match pint. All fans will be welcome, whatever their jersey. Here's how we get on.
All right, to rugby, and I'm delighted to say we've got Shane Williams with us. Shane, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
You liked playing in Dublin? Your team was pretty successful here over the years?
Yeah, probably more successful when I'm not playing. But yeah, I think I've won over here twice. And I think the boys had a little bit more, won a few more games over the last couple of years. So yes, not quite as scary as it used to be.
I thought that actually, because there was a period in the 90s in particular when we would win in Cardiff and you guys would win here, but then I thought you guys got better over your period of time. It kind of...
Yeah, we did get better, thank God. We weren't particularly good in the 90s, to be fair, but...
we were all crap.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah, pretty much.
Apart from England and France.
Pretty much, yeah. Nothing to write the home about, but... Yeah, so no, I think we're definitely within Warren Gatland's reign. It hasn't been quite as daunting to come here. I don't just think sometimes the style of rugby that Wales play suits us against Ireland, and we often seem to be the underdogs, but we come up trumps.
When Gatland takes over as Wales coach, is he still reeling? I know it's 8 years or so, 9 years or so since he's lost the Ireland job. Is he still reeling? Is his first trip to Dublin a really big one for Warren?
Oh yes, it's always a big game, especially when you're coming from somewhere you have a bit of history with. Of course it is, and you know, any coach really. Whenever you've coached a team or wherever, you always take it personal anyway, don't you? Whether you leave on good terms or bad terms, and I think Warren has enjoyed his time coming over here and winning games. He certainly has a smile on his face when he's playing the Irish, but I think one of the reasons is because Ireland are always the good team. They're always the most consistent team in the Six Nations, and if you come and beat Ireland, especially in Dublin, you know, you're doing something right, and he gets a little bit more pleasure from that then. But he seems to enjoy the Irish wins, that's for sure.
What is it about your style that you think matches well with Ireland's style, and what is a tradition that you guys have been able to do?
I think whenever I've been part of a team that's been successful against Ireland, is you put them under pressure. You know, they can be very comfortable when Sexton and Murray are on top, when they got time on ball and the pack's going forward, and the likes of Sean O'Brien and these guys again forward with their ball carries. When Wales I've done well against them. You know, we've stopped these big players get over the gain line. We've had players like Dan Lydiard, Sam Warburton, really Alan Wynne-Jones smashing them there, stopping Sexton, get quick ball. You know, make the breakdowns a little bit messier for Murray because you know, he has an armchair and he's one of the best nines out there. And when he's got an armchair, it's a very easy day for Murray and Ireland. So we just compete. And I think, you know, World Cup 2011, where we knew we were up against a big pack, we just, you know, tackled everything that came down the channel, made it difficult for them.
It still hurts us.
And you know, got on top in that respect. But I think Ireland are a better team now. Tactically, they're one of the best out there. Their kicking game, especially from Sexton and Murray, is incredible, very accurate. And that's something that Wales are going to have to improve on because they were quite poor against England. So there are areas, but they're good in most areas as well.
It's funny you say that we're better tactically now, because last year in the build-up to the game, Warren's grenade that he launched in the build-up was about CJ Stander being pretty predictable. He then goes to pick him for the Lions, and CJ battles his way into the Lions team. So obviously he liked what he saw, but they dealt with that last year really, really well. And you know, you mentioned Lydiard. It was that kind of stereotypically brilliant back row performance from the Welsh against CJ last year, where they just cut him down at the point of contact, as opposed to trying to, you know, use your momentum to stop him. It's like, well, I'm just going to tackle you around your legs.
Yeah, and you know, you look at every team you play against and every player, and there's always different tactics. And again, you know, Wales, whenever I've played as well, the back row have always been very strong. And then you bring someone like CJ in, who's a good ball carrier, strong, or Sean O'Brien, and these players that, they pretty much get Ireland going forward, and then Sexton and Murray do the rest, really. So we've always prided ourselves on competing in the back row, which is interesting, really, because we've got a different back row, available this week. But we've got a back row that's playing really well.
Yeah.
Perhaps not as physical as a Sam Warburton or a Lydiate or these guys. We've got Moriarty he'll throw his body around everywhere, but we've got Josh Navidi, who gets through a lot of tackles, Shingler, who's an excellent ball carrier and gets over the gain line. So a little bit of a different dynamic there. We might be a little bit quicker away from the breakdowns than the Irish there, but the Irish are always going to be big and strong. So it'll be interesting to see how that area goes, because it is always somewhere we've always tried to target, because they've been so strong in that area.
Yeah, is there a certain element of that that's just about hammering the hammer almost? It's like, there's their strength, they think they're going to beat us in that area, we're going to tell them what we really think of that area.
Yeah, it always is, and when you play against Sexton, he's one of the best 10s in the world, but the game plan is always, right, let's get on top of Sexton, let's stop him having the ball on the front foot, let's get in his head, let's make sure he doesn't have an armchair. And sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't, but you've really got to do that. And you attack where they're strong. You've got to, because those, Sexton's the reason that Ireland win games. It was his drop goal that won the game for them against France. All the hard work was done by the forwards, but you don't see that afterwards, do you? So yeah, you've got to. And like I say, World Cup 2011, we attacked players like Sean O'Brien because we knew they were the ball carriers. We chopped them down quick, get them out of the game, get their positive game out the way, and then we can develop and work on that. And that's what you've got to do. And it's coaches do it. We were on about Warren Gatland, on about CJ Stander, then he picks him for the Lions. He knows CJ Stander is a great player.
Yeah.
But it's always great to have, get in his head a little bit. He's going into the game thinking, they're targeting me today, right? Perhaps I've got to do this a little bit different. Perhaps I do this instead of doing that.
Do you think that works?
Oh, of course it does.
Say it worked for Eddie Jones last week.
It definitely it was a tough game for Patchell last week, having Eddie Jones say that the whole of Wales make a massive hoo-ha about it, and the next thing you know, you're playing against England and you're thinking, oh my God, I remember Eddie Jones saying this is going to happen, and it does play a part. And Patchell didn't have his best game, so the coach is throwing a little grenade there. It sometimes works, sometimes backfires.
Yeah. But
also what it does, it takes pressure off the players as well. It puts pressure on them, but it takes a little bit of pressure off your own players, and sometimes it works, like I say. But I'm sure we'll have a couple of little grenades popping out this week, and that's what the Six Nations is all about.
Yeah, exactly. Sean O'Brien hasn't done any media yet this week. We wait with bated breath to see what he has to say about this match. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you about was the back three, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the other thing that's happening this week is that Wales are massive underdogs for this game, and I can't really, for the life of me, understand it. The price has come in a little bit. People have started to look at that as like completely ridiculous. This, to me, is a one-score game, really. Now, one team might win it by a bit more, but there's no guarantee that it's Ireland who are going to win it 9 times out of 10, which is kind of what the suggestion is at the minute.
I think they got a 10-point start, haven't they, Wales? And I'll take that all day long, thank you. No, look, they're very evenly matched. I think Ireland have got the experience of a Sexton and Murray, and they got players in that team that have been there and done it. But Wales also have got experience. They've got a lot of new blood coming through, a lot of youngsters that are playing out their skin as well. Individuals, Stephen Evans, Josh Navidi, Shingler, players that probably wouldn't have started the Six Nations had George North, Liam Williams, Lydiate and Sam Obden, Tipperick been fit. So it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise, really. So you look at both teams player for player, it's very evenly matched. I think obviously home advantage is huge in the Six Nations. Ask any international player, they love playing at home, and it is a big factor.
And does being an underdog matter? Like, is that something that this week nobody believes in you? Will Warren Gatland be tapping into that?
No, look, I'm sure Warren would be saying, look, we're not the favourites for this game. No one really expects us to go and win in Dublin. But look at our record in Dublin. Look at what we've done against these guys. We were written off in the World Cup. We were written off 2 years ago, and so on and so forth. And he'll just be putting all the positive things back into the minds of these guys. He'll be telling the lads, look, like so Josh Navidi. Look, Josh, you're playing out to your skin at the moment, but you've got to keep playing like that. If you don't, we've got Justin Tipuric, we've got Sam Warburton to come back, Shingler as well. We've got these guys, Stefan Evans, we've got George North and Liam Williams coming back. We need you to play well this week, and it does play a factor, and it gets you going a little bit, really. You won't be going on about, look, we've got a 10 start, we've got this. He will just be putting all the positive factors into the team, telling them what they should, that they should have won against England in Twickenham. They didn't score a point in 60 minutes or whatever it was. We can do the same in Dublin. We start a bit better. We've got this game, and that's what a good coach does, really. And obviously Schmidt will be doing the opposite. Look, we're favourites, but that's a load of nonsense.
Yeah.
Look at their record against us.
Yeah.
They know how to beat us in Dublin. So no complacency. You go for the throw, we go for the jugular after 5 minutes, and we keep it there. And we do what we did in Paris, and we're just ruthless, and we'll win the game.
Is there more of a confidence in the rugby culture that exists in Wales now simply because of Scarlets? Because previously you could look at Wales and say they're a team that managed to, say, underperform at club level. Then they have this collective goal at international level under Warren Gatland. They overachieve, some might say. Whereas this year it sort of feels like Scarlets aren't punching above their weight. They're playing as good as they should be, and they're playing well consistently, and there is that sort of translation into the overall rugby culture, it seems.
Yeah, I think so. I think look, before the Six Nations there was panic in Wales because we had Sam Warburton out, we had George North out, we had Liam Williams, we had massive list, 13 players I think out injured, and he was like, oh my god, what are we going to do? We didn't play particularly well in the autumn series. This is going to be a tough Six Nations. But I honestly think it was a blessing in disguise. The likes of Shingler have come in, and Josh Navidi's kept his place. Stefan Evans is playing well. Josh Adams has come in and done well, and all of a sudden, you put Scotland to the sword. You could have beaten England, and you've from what people are saying, it's almost just your second string team, but it's not. These players have come in and they've continued to play like they have for the Scarlets, like they have for Worcester and wherever. I think it's a huge blessing in disguise. What Warren did as well, he looked at the players he had in the Welsh team, in the Welsh squad, and has looked at Scarlets and thought, well, that style of rugby suits Wales. That's how we won the Grand Slam in 08. That's how we've been so successful, is by outscoring teams with tries. Let's bring these boys in and let's play like the Scarlets have been playing. They've been playing with tempo, they've been playing with width. They come to Ireland, they beat the likes of Leinster and teams like that. They're still in the European Cup, and won the Pro 12 last year, and they're looking very comfortable. So why not bring those players in and play like that for England, for Wales, and that's exactly what they've done, and it's worked. What's comforting now is that we do have players coming back from injury. George North perhaps can slot in the back three there, because you need a bit more experience with Sexton kicking everywhere. And you've got players like Sam Warburton and Justin Tipuric coming back from injury. Sam Warburton's still injured, but you can kind of gel it all together now to make that squad stronger, and all of a sudden it's looking a lot healthier.
The way the game's gone now, where would you play? Would you play fullback and try and get, would that be something that they would try and get you on the ball more often, given how important counter-attacking is from those loose kicks and how teams are trying to keep the ball in play more?
Yeah, I think to be a fullback you've got to have a good strong kicking game, which I didn't have. So that's one strike. No, look, it's what you're finding now is the likes of Stuart Hogg and Lee Harper and East Sadigan, Rob Kearney. These guys, with a bit of time, they're encouraged to attack that line. We see with Stuart Hogg every time he gets the ball. Yeah, he runs in more than he kicks it now, which would have suited me down to the ground. But no, I think
so. Maybe they would have worked it so that you would have been.
Yeah, you can kind of you move the team around. And Wales at the moment, we've got players like Anscombe who can fit in there as well. George North can play there. Lee Harpenny can play wing, fullback. Liam Williams wing, fullback. Whereas they were out and out fullbacks as well. I was just a winger really who took all the plaudits most of the time. But no, the game is now, the back three is massively important because there's a lot of kicking. You've really got to fill that last third of the pitch. And the wings are getting a lot of kicks now as well. They're getting a bit more time on the ball, and we've seen a lot more tries scored by wingers on back three. And I'd have enjoyed playing in. I was lucky I played in an era where Wales wanted to move the ball around, and it seems to have come full circle again. And we've got players like Stephen Evans scoring tries. We've got George North coming back into the team now, who needs to get on the receiving end and scoring tries. And I think that's the way the game's gone. You know, if it was all about defences stopping teams from scoring, but now it's right, confidence in your defence, but we need to score tries as well. And I think I would have enjoyed playing in that part of it.
The broken field runner is actually far more valued. Just, it seems, over the last 12 months, for whatever reason, that actually those opportunities are going to come to us in the game. Instead of just kicking it back and trying to be better at kick chase, why don't we back somebody who's good at creating? Because you beat one player, then the other defence, suddenly they're in scramble mode.
Well, you as soon as you get past one player, it's all bets are off, and it's, you know, the structure's out the window. So yeah, that's the way it's gone, and I'm enjoying it. You see, a lot of that is down to the pressure teams are putting on other teams, and we saw it against England, where the English defence came up so quick on Pacho and Gareth Davis. It was slow ball, you know, kicks were rushed. You know, Mike Brown had a field day. I don't know how many times he caught the ball clean and was able to make 10, 15, 20 yards. Watson as well, getting the ball going forward. And that's because of the pressure you put teams under in defence. And that's why we've seen Stuart Hogg create so many things. Alright, he was quiet against Wales, but he started to come into his own against France because teams were putting the kickers under pressure. Teddy Thomas doesn't sound like a Frenchman, but he is French. You know, he had a field day where he was having ball, he was having time to look up, take players on one-on-one. You know, I think he's had 3 tries in the tournament so far. Not that he's going to score this weekend, but you know, it is the players are getting more time, and they're encouraged more to run with ball in hand. Lee Halfpenny with the Scarlets, you know, at Toulon, it was very forward oriented. When he was getting the ball, he was under pressure all the time, and he had a massive defensive game, but his attacking game got taken out of him a little bit.
Totally, and he's such a big boot as well. You think, well, we're just going to use that as opposed to...
It's just moving things around, changing the picture. You know, if you're a fullback that always kicks the ball, then you know how to defend that guy. You just get up on him slowly, wait for him to kick it, and then you put your players back and counter-attack. If you've got a player that you don't know if he's going to kick, you don't know if he's going to run, you don't know if he's going to pass, or if he's going to run from his own try line, then it's really tough to defend these guys, and Stuart Hogg's one of them. And I think we're starting to see a few more now.
Are Wales going to win this weekend, finally?
I do think Wales are capable of winning. But I just think Ireland are on this roll at the moment, and I think it's going to be very close. 10 points. I'll take the 10. If we got the 10 points, I think Wales will win. But I think it's going to be too close to that, and I think Sexton and Murray at the moment are playing really well. So
you're all buttering us up. Everybody from Wales, like, you're such a great team, lads. I think this is going to be one-way traffic. It'll be close, but you're definitely going to win. I don't like you when you're like this.
No, I don't know. I think Ireland are playing very well at the moment, and you know, they're 2 from 2. They're playing at home. I hope they got their eye on the England game. I hope they've got their eye on that, thinking, right, okay, when we go up there now, we've got to win this match, and they kind of forget the Wales are here on the weekend. But I can't see that happening.
Shane Williams, gent, thanks very much.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, unbelievably nice guy, Shane Williams there, and I just do think that there would be room for Shane Williams in the modern game, regardless of all those concerns about size. And, you know, the Jacob Stocktales of this world, they're one prototype of winger, and then there's the other prototype.
Depends who your head coach is. Do you want your wings getting involved at the breakdown? Is Jacob Stockdale a useful tool to Joe Schmidt? Of course he is.
Definitely.
Could Shane Williams do that? Not a hope. But then again, could Jacob Stockdale do some of the things that Shane Williams did? Not a hope either. So it's completely different. I wonder, is it just a matter of saying, on one wing we're going to have a big guy who can contribute at the breakdown, and on the other wing we're going to have a Jordan Larmour, a Stockdale and Larmour set of wings. I wonder, like...
And you can, in game flow, dictates who gets the ball, who's at first receiver, when they join the line.
But does that mean that they have very appreciable weaknesses? That, like, they're very good at, you know, doing their thing,
it's possible Stockdale ends up having no weaknesses.
Yeah?
Like, he just fixes the defensive issues which every 21-year-old has. And
which seems to be a positional thing rather than an actual natural skills-based thing. Yeah. So, yeah, completely.
Like, at the ground, watching him accelerate against Italy, it's like, ooh, he's got a step.
Yeah, he really does.
Step.
Which foot does he step off? Because obviously that's the whole thing with Jordan Larmour. I mean, did you know Jordan Larmour could step off both feet? I was going to say that to Williams yesterday, but I'm sure he already knows that. Could Williams step off both feet? Was what I was thinking. I'm not quite sure, because...
Only you had asked him yesterday when we was in the studio.
Yeah, but it was...
Good question, Eoin.
It was like we were half an hour in, and it was like, oh crap, we've already done half an hour with him. But the one thing I wonder is, like, when he talks about sending defenders the wrong way. I wonder, could defenders tell which way Williams is going to go? Because when it comes to Jordan Larmour, they can't tell. Like, no matter how much tape you watch, because he can step off both feet.
Yeah.
If he sends you one way, he could easily go the other. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I presume he could. Because he was... I think he had almost every strength he could possibly have, other than the whole physicality thing.
We've obviously been talking about the 4 Lions back for Wales. That's Faletau, Biggar, Halfpenny and Williams all available, plus George North, of course, who didn't start the game against England. Good news from an Irish perspective was that Gary Ringrose was training with the Ireland setup yesterday, although it doesn't look as if he is going to be considered for the game this weekend. It looks as if we pretty much know who the centre partnership will be for the game based on who was... running in the 12 and 13 slots in training earlier in the week. One man who we know definitely will be starting is Peter O'Mahony. He was speaking to the assembled media yesterday at Carton House.
Peter, a couple of weeks in at this stage, how are you feeling after the opening 2 games? You got, I suppose, a little something of everything in those 2 games.
Yeah, look, we 2 big tests against 2 quality out teams, and you know we're happy to be out the other side of them with 2 wins, and it was nice to get a bit of a break last week, and refresh a bit and top up on some more detail in that loan and start again now this week.
What kind of detail did you work on? What kind of stuff were you looking at evolving or improving, or how did it work?
Yeah, just looking forward to Wales and putting our planning process. Did a bit of recovery and kind of rejuvenation as well, and trying to get the bodies back to as good a shape as they can be, and as I said, trying to add to our plan for Wales.
For the Wales game, obviously you worked under Warren Gatland during the summer. A number of you did. Does that give you an extra insight? Does it give you an edge? Does it give you something a bit different heading into this game?
No, I don't think so. Look, you build up some great, I suppose, friendships, and as a result of that, I suppose the rivalries come out of as well, as well as the friendship. But it's at the end of the day, it's another Six Nations game. There's rivalries between every team in the Six Nations, and Wales are the next one we have up. It's obviously there was a lot of us worked under Gats and alongside a lot of the players there. But as I said, that kind of just adds to the friendship and rivalry side of things.
Are you kind of thinking about the things he might be telling his players this week, having worked under him, and kind of do you have that in mind in your own preparation?
Not particularly, but as you know, we're very inward looking and ourselves focused, and we spent all last week looking back to, I suppose, the second half against Italy and seeing how we can improve defensively first of all, and how we can add to our attack, and it's very all about us at the moment and looking after our own plan.
Peter O'Mahony, yeah, staring into the distance, thinking, I'm going to kick me some Welsh ass this weekend. That's what he's thinking.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something else there, and I was like, what has Oisín done that
no,
Peter O'Mahony would be so angry?
No.
Yeah, the whole Peter O'Mahony does strike me as the type of person who's like, he is actually very interesting in the media quite often, and he's often just has no interest in doing it, so he's kind of effortlessly good and interesting to listen to. He
spoke about in the written media after the broadcast section was recorded about the knee injury and just how long it took him to really feel normal after it again, because he had a proper full reconstruction of his knee from the World Cup, and he only came back 18 months ago. And you consider it's a 4-year cycle. That's 18 months out, 18 months back, and we're less than a year to so 15 months to go to the World Cup at this point. And he says it's only around now that he's really starting to feel like himself again after all that effort and all that time to get back. And there were definitely times when he felt like it wasn't going to come right for him, which is pretty grim for a 27-year-old really entering the peak of their career. So it's great to see him back, and it's great to see him doing so well.
Yeah, you can kind of see it in the performances as well, as in the peak. Like when he comes back, there was obviously a bit of forgiveness from him because he wasn't back to peak Peter O'Mahony, as we saw maybe against Italy, maybe at the start of that France game in the World Cup in 2015, and it took him the half a year, maybe a little bit longer even, to get back to peak Peter O'Mahony, and we've seen that in the last couple of weeks and months. And as you mentioned before us running to the clip, he's an absolute lock to start every game. Even if you had the entire embarrassment of riches that we've always had at the back row available, even if everybody is fully fit and playing, and there's no worries that way. Peter O'Mahony is a lock in this team. I don't think that was the way last year. I think there was questions about Peter O'Mahony, whether or not he is actually the best person in his position for the Ireland team. I think 12 months on,
they've disappeared.
You definitely can't say those questions still exist.
Yeah. Jody Moylan was wondering about, could they not just find an English person who lived in Japan? This is the fact that there was a brainstorming session held by Eddie Jones this week to see how do we win a tournament in Japan. So he spoke to Danny Mills.
It's ridiculous when you say it out loud. It's slightly ridiculous when you think about it, but when you say it out loud, it's more ridiculous for sure. Obviously, just the whole life of being in a tournament in Japan is clearly different to everyday life. We're not experts. We can't judge Eddie Jones on this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so the Chris Farrell is probably going to start. I wonder, is this like a double bluff though from Joe Schmidt, that you have the opportunity now to put Gary Ringrose back in the team, but he hasn't played any minutes?
Yeah, he's played little to nothing. I wonder, is the question, do you risk Gary Ringrose for one weekend, or
is the whole point of having Chris Farrell stick him in against Wales and see how he gets on? And suddenly you have an embarrassment of riches if he swims, and if he sinks, it's like, okay, fair enough, you had a really good chance.
Yeah, but maybe on the Ringrose point of view, if you put him in this weekend, are you risking the fact that it might be the only time we get Gary Ringrose? Or do you say, right, if we don't play Gary Ringrose this weekend, we let him go and play Southern Kings on Friday night, release him back to Leinster, then we have him for the last 2 games guaranteed, and he'll have got a full 80 minutes under his belt or whatever. Chris Farrell, obviously, there's no questions with his fitness. Obviously, the question with Chris Farrell is he ready for this level? And Six Nations rugby, which is different to his previous Ireland experience. So
well, I think I've said this before, but I was at a thing where Razzie Erasmus predicted that he would start for Ireland against South Africa in the World Cup in 2019.
Right.
I mean, that obviously means that we both won our group, so...
Yeah.
But he was like, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Chris Farrell starting, so that's how highly he rates him.
Yeah, he's played alongside Aki as well in an Ireland jersey. Which game in November was it? Was it Fiji, was it? Or was it the week beforehand against South Africa? Was it the South Africa game he started?
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure Farrell and Aki have started alongside each other in the centre, so it's not like it's this alien thing for him to be playing alongside Aki or an alien centre partnership. So he's going to start. It is going to be Aki and Chris Farrell in the centre for Ireland this weekend. The question I would have is, does Gary Ringrose make the bench? And I suspect he won't. I suspect that Joe Schmidt is thinking it's a bit of a risk, but I think if he could play 80 minutes this weekend for Leinster, if he's almost good to go, then we'll take that and we'll take him for Scotland.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happens, and we'll obviously bring you team news as soon as it breaks here on offtheball.com. Now, let's move on because we want to talk football. Here is Tim Vickery on the dangerous decline of club football in Brazil and why people aren't safe going to games anymore.
And there was violence in the terraces as well, so it wasn't just on the pitch; it was in the terraces. And violence is the number one motive that people give for not going to matches.
Wow, that is incredibly interesting. I wasn't quite aware of that both on the pitch and off the pitch. I suppose especially on the pitch when you consider the general gentrification of football, and we're not seeing as many bad tackles as Man City almost score but don't. But generally we're seeing football going in one way, and it's a more gentrified, less physical game. So that's really fascinating that Brazil is out of kilter, and that both on the pitch and in the stands things are actually getting worse. Because I must say, when I saw the story, I had just presumed, we would say, this is just one of those, as you said, crazy South American examples. Yeah. But I thought this piece would actually be a chat about the fact that we don't see these as much anymore, and you were going to tell us great tales from 20 years ago. I didn't realise this was an ongoing and increasing situation. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I saw an interview recently with, do you remember the big Argentine centre forward, Straculursi, who rumbled about enthusiastically to little effect at Everton? He gave an interview and he talked about how much he loved playing in England and how much he loved the atmosphere that there was in the grounds. And when he goes back to South America, he's bounced around Argentina and Ecuador. People are bringing their dissatisfaction with their ordinary lives, they're bringing it to the stadium, and there can be a really toxic atmosphere sometimes. And sometimes in South America, the atmosphere can be great. Yeah. It can be everything that you remember of the good side of how things used to be 20 years ago with better songs. But there can also be a really toxic atmosphere in the stadium. And I'm seeing it increasingly in Brazil. The level of hatred and intolerance in society is permeating football.
That's pretty interesting. The whole sport reflecting the society it comes from, as opposed to being able to change it, I guess, is the undercurrent there. But obviously the most important thing in all of that was that Tim Vickery was topless broadcasting on Off the Ball last night.
Topless Tim? If I'd ever heard Topless Tim, I would have thought Tim Sherwood's done it again or something. But no, it's Tim Vickery who's taken up that nickname straight away.
I think kind of, just proving to us what we thought was the case. Tim is having the life in Brazil. Look at that. That tan is deep. That's a deep tan.
That's no bottle. That is no bottle right there.
It's like life is good.
Yeah, well, clearly his aircon is broken, so life isn't that good. Or maybe there is no aircon in his part of the world. It's clearly that warm where...
But it's summertime.
Well, yeah, but I mean, can you not turn on the air conditioning?
Do you never wander around your own house?
Well, if I'm going to go on, national radio where people can see me, I'm going to put on a t-shirt and throw on the aircon,
It's too hot.
I'm sure it is. And do you know what? If he did it for the sake of showing off his tan, good on you, Tim. That's what I want. That's what we want to see on Off the Ball.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's move on. We've got Andy West with us because tonight it is Chelsea against Barcelona. And Andy, this is one of those remaining stats that we still haven't seen Leo Messi blast out of the stratosphere. Maybe we've frozen there. Have we? Can we get Andy back?
I think he's just frozen for a moment. If Tim Vickery was too warm, well, Andy West is frozen.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
All the extremes.
But yeah, that Messi stat, which I'm sure we'll ask Andy about as soon as he's back on, is one of those weird ones. But it is one of those that it's just like, it's the last one. It's the last pillar for Lionel Messi to crush. He will score in this two-legged tie. They will beat Chelsea. There has been a number of things put forward that Chelsea could potentially be, an Achilles heel for Barcelona in general. I don't think that's the case. That was the Chelsea of old when you had a spine of Drogba, Lampard, Terry, the true grit of Chelsea Football Club. That doesn't exist anymore.
Peter Cech.
Gary Cahill when he was good at football. Was Gary Cahill there in 2012?
Don't know.
I'm not even sure. Even he's playing poorly. I'm not even sure if Gary Cahill will start tonight. I mean, they could go with Christensen, Rudiger and Azpilicueta as their back three.
It's a pretty long time, in fairness. That was 2011-2012 when Messi missed the penalty. Yeah. Chelsea went on to win the semi 3-2 in aggregate, and obviously they win the final and lift the trophy under Roberto Di Matteo. Like, a lot has happened in the world since then, and Leo Messi continues to be the best footballer on the planet.
Yeah, that's true.
That's amazing.
It really is.
We take that for granted, right?
And even if you look at how different Messi looked when he had the long locks back then in 2012, and how different Iniesta looks as well from that game. Well, Iniesta doesn't look that different, remarkably. But as you say, a lot of stuff has happened in the world. A lot of stuff has happened in football since that match. And as you say, Messi has just remained serenely good.
Yeah, I don't think he had long hair.
Some might argue that since 2012, Cristiano Ronaldo has become the best footballer in the world.
Some might. I mean, you would, because you left Messi out of your FIFA team.
Because he was taken in the draft.
What draft? That? No one remembers that.
Cristiano Ronaldo...
Who would do a draft? Why would you do a draft?
Yeah. Well, no, Lionel Messi is the greatest footballer of all time, but Ronaldo has become the greatest footballer of individual years that have occurred since 2012. And right now, is Ronaldo the best footballer on the planet? Maybe Messi's kind of re-overtaken him again as a result of this season's form. But yeah, I'm sure we'll ask Andy about that. All
right, we've re-established some contact with Andy. Andy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, I mean, this is obviously one of those ridiculous outlier stats that exists in world football for no particular reason. But Leo Messi and his record against Chelsea isn't particularly amazing. Any ideas if there is something in this, or was it just a weird concatenation of events?
Yeah, I just think it's an anomaly. I don't think there is anything in it. Partly you can explain it by the fact that most of his games against Chelsea were when he was really young and he was still playing more as a facilitator, as a winger, rather than the out-and-out goal scorer. So he's not faced Chelsea, as you were saying, since 2012. And it's really since 2010-11 that he's become the potent goal scorer, scoring every week. So I don't think there's anything in it beyond coincidence. But it is also interesting that he's really struggled against Thibaut Courtois as well, the Chelsea keeper. When he was at Atletico Madrid that last season, when Atletico won the league, Messi played 6 games against them and didn't score. And he played against Belgium in the World Cup and didn't score. So he's got no goals in 8 games against Chelsea and none in his last 7 against Courtois.
Notwithstanding the slightly dodgy records, when you put it like that, what is the general form of Barcelona like at the moment?
Very, very good, and they're a much better team than they were last season. And I say that in the word team. They've obviously lost Neymar, which is a huge blow and a big drop in individual quality, because they haven't come close to replacing that. But as the way they work together collectively, they're much improved. At times last season, when you saw Barca, it felt like you were watching two teams, 8 of them defending, and then the front 3. And there wasn't much in the middle, and the midfield really suffered. But now, new manager Ernesto Valverde deserves all the credit for this. He's got them to play together. He's got a structure that works. Their record defensively is outstanding. I think it's 11 goals conceded in 24 league games, only 1 in the Champions League group stage, and that includes 2 clean sheets against Juventus. So they're an all-round team, and they're playing really well.
Just on that, it seems to have been a 4-4-2 that Valverde has gone to quite often this season, and you've mentioned Neymar there, and you've mentioned Jordi Alba, and just the freedom with which Alba is playing this year, essentially as a left winger, and even look at Lionel Messi, and it seems to me that I certainly don't recall in the last couple of years Messi playing in as traditional a role as he is this season, aka Barcelona's number 10.
That's right. I don't think he's really ever played it in his whole career for Barcelona. He's played it a fair bit for Argentina. But he is playing, it's like a 4-4-1-1, if you like, with him behind Luis Suarez, supporting Suarez. And that was always, when he was growing up, that was his favoured position, behind 1 or 2 strikers. And he's never really played it for Barca because he was the false 9 and he's played out on the right. So now he is playing there, and he's playing exceptionally well, Messi. And you mentioned Alba, and that's really important. And if there's one thing I think Chelsea have to do, it's watch out for Alba. He and Messi sort of play 1-2s with each other over the space of 40 yards. But Messi will either float the ball over the defence or thread it through into the run of Alba, and then Alba will immediately cut it back for Messi, who's running onto it for a shot on goal. I think it's 7 assists that Alba has for Messi this season already. They're a really big connection, and absolutely that's happened because Neymar's gone. They have that space on the left wing where Neymar used to occupy. Alba never had the chance before to run into that space, but now he's doing it, and Chelsea have got to watch out for that.
There was a long read on Bleacher Report over the last couple of days that talked about Neymar Inc. or Neymar Limited as opposed to Neymar the individual, and how much of a drag dealing with the entire entourage and the business of Neymar had become for Barcelona. Because remember, they're doing exactly the same thing for Leo Messi, and it's hard to serve 2 giant egos. Maybe that's the right word in this instance, maybe it's the wrong one, but was that sense palpable around the club and in their communications in the aftermath of Neymar leaving? Was there some weird sense of relief that one of the best players in the world had actually taken his ball and gone to Paris?
Not really, no. To be honest, I think that's, I do know what you mean, and there is a fair argument in that, but I think that's kind of rewriting history after the event and trying to make Barca out as though they might have been happy with it. No, they didn't want to lose Neymar at all, because Messi is such a generous teammate. He didn't have a problem with Neymar's ego. You're absolutely right. They are 2 huge egos. They both have to be made to feel special. And for the years that Neymar was there, he was prepared just about to be subservient to Messi and to be the second star. And Messi, still everything revolves around him. But he was generous enough with both Neymar and Suarez that he still allowed the other players, those players, a chance to shine more than other stars. Ronaldo's the obvious one that comes to mind, more than he would do so. So I think it wasn't a problem because they both were comfortable with their places. But then, obviously, Neymar became uncomfortable with that, and that's why he left, because he wanted to be the main man, the one that everything revolved around. And maybe if he'd been forced to stay, now it would have become a problem. But at the time, it worked out okay, because Neymar was just about okay with that relationship while he was there.
Does it also, though, feed in a little bit to why Valverde has been successful at convincing the team to play as a team, that now instead of, he just needs to win Messi over to go, here's the game plan, this is what we're going to do, this is what your role is going to be when we're out of possession, I need you to do this and take up these positions. But he used to have to do that to 2 people. And it's much easier to convince one person to be a leader than it is to go, oh, no, I trust you both. You're both my children.
Yeah. Neymar was a hard worker. There's been a lot of criticism in the last week or so of Neymar following that game last week, and I understand that because his manner on the pitch does turn people off sometimes, the way he showboats and his play acting. But he does work really hard. He was always prepared to track back. Messi was given that privilege that he didn't have to, and he still doesn't have to. He's allowed to spare his energy and just for the attacking phase of the game. But Neymar always works hard. So does Luis Suarez. He's a phenomenally hard worker. So again, that I don't think that was a problem. It wasn't a problem when Barca winning the treble under Luis Enrique in 2015. For that half a season, after things started to click, they were spectacular. They had probably the hardest ever route to the Champions League final. They had to beat Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, and then Juventus all the way on the way. And they won the league, and they won the cup. They were brilliant during that period of time with those three together, and then they clicked as a team. They lost it last season, definitely, but I don't think it was just that, well, those three can't work together and play in a team, because they did in that period 3 years ago. And it's just a different way now. They've reorganised. They've maybe had to compensate for Messi getting older and being able to run less and less. If you watch him now, he walks. Most of the game he walks, literally. And that's something you don't see from any other player. But he makes up for it when the ball comes near him. He sparks so much, and his passing is really something that we've seen come on in the last couple of years. The way he develops play for his teammates is at another level now. He's probably the best goal scorer in the world and the best playmaker in the world at the same time now.
So in terms of this clash with Chelsea, it seems to me that Valverde has become, or maybe he always has been, an exceptional manager at reacting to situations. And no matter what Chelsea throw at Barcelona, no matter what Antonio Conte has up his sleeve, it seems to me that Valverde is going to have something up his sleeve to react very, very well to this.
Yeah, he's tried a lot of variations this season. Well, one thing they're consistent with is a flat back four. He's not going to go to a back three. But then within the midfield and forward line, he has tried different things. As we said, it's normally a 4-4-1-1. But within that four in midfield, there's different variations for Paulinho's position, or maybe Andre Gomez will come in. There's Dembele, who offers something very different as the pace and penetration down the wing. And then they sometimes go to a 4-3-3, which can alternate even with a 4-4-2 within the same game, that they'll have 4-3-3 when they've got possession, with someone like Paulinho or Dembele pushing forward to become a 3 in attack, and then he'll have to drop back into midfield when they lose the ball. So they are very flexible, and Valverde really adjusted in game very well, shown by the second halves they've had. I think their record after half time is 62 goals scored and 7 conceded. So they're able to adjust and make those in-game changes to become more effective. And, that shows why they're top of the league, unbeaten in the league, through to the cup final, unbeaten in the Champions League. It's been a spectacular season so far.
To what extent does Eden Hazard need to have the game of his life, really, and the games of his life over these two legs for Chelsea to win? I saw Jacob Steinberg in The Guardian referring to the situation as perhaps like Kaká 11 years ago with that relatively ordinary AC Milan team, who obviously went on to win the Champions League, and Kaká seemed to be the only world-class player in that particular AC Milan side. Does Eden Hazard need to be on that level for Chelsea to have any hope of beating Barcelona over these two legs?
Yeah, and I think particularly in the away leg, 0-0 would be an okay result for Chelsea tonight. And Conte will know that, obviously. His grounding in Italian football, defence first, and he's very much shown that over his career. If they can get a 0-0 tonight, which is certainly plausible, because Barca, although they are playing well, they are fairly limited in attacking options. And if Chelsea get everyone behind the ball and then say, OK, Messi, pick your way through us, then they have struggled with that at times this season. And then it becomes the away goal in the second leg. And Hazard, on the break with his dribbling ability, getting between the lines of midfield and attack, and especially exploiting if Alba comes forward and Sergio Roberto comes forward from right back, getting in behind them, then Hazard will be the key to that. But probably the bigger key is defensively. Chelsea tonight, if they can keep a clean sheet I think that's their biggest chance of getting through. They don't even have to win tonight, but a clean sheet would be huge for Chelsea tonight.
Andy, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us. Enjoy the game this evening. Thanks a million.
Thank you. Cheers.
It's Andy West giving us some pre-match thoughts.
Chelsea are doomed, basically. They don't stand a prayer. But then again, it is Antonio Conte.
They definitely stand a prayer, right?
They probably do.
Like, asking that question about what form are they in, they're running away with the league, and yet they're not getting that much credit in terms of, there's still this weird sense of they haven't reached the peaks that they can reach. And maybe that's exactly what they need to be, a far more balanced team, so they can go through rounds of the Champions League like this and not lose one of the games 4-0 and be out of it before, or nearly out of it. So, you know, a 0-0 and a 1-0 or a 1-0 and a 0-0, and they go through. But
remember, like before Christmas, people were saying, "Oh, Chelsea, you'd fancy them against Barcelona. Barcelona aren't in great form." It was so inevitable that things were going to, like, despite the fact that Barcelona had opened up a huge gap at the top of La Liga even before then, people were still saying, you know, things might go south for Barcelona. Things have got better. Messi has got better. Luis Suarez has got better. They seem to have kind of found their back four now. Umtiti is having one of his greatest seasons, probably his best season in a Barcelona jersey. Ter Stegen is playing his best football as well in goals. Piqué is still there. They're not going to be able to score, I don't think, Chelsea, and clearly they're not going to win and they're not going to score against Barcelona.
Just to talk about Kaká, Barney Ronnie's point was he was the only world-class player on the team?
Steinberg, yeah. 11 years ago, the one where they...
07.
The one where they do beat Liverpool and don't mess it up. That was 07, wasn't it?
Pirlo and Gattuso, Maldini, Nesta. Not a bad team. Seedorf.
Well, I'm just happy I cited the source where I read that rather than kind of inventing that
Pippo Inzaghi.
And pretending it was my own point.
Cafu on the bench.
Well, a lot of those guys were past it, bar Pirlo. Right?
I mean, Maldini wasn't really ever past it. He was just amazing the whole way through. And Nesta wasn't past it in his 2 years removed from 1 year removed from winning the World Cup.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would say that Pirlo, of course, is the outlier there. And maybe some might argue 07 wasn't even peak Pirlo. That Pirlo got better with age, like a fine wine.
No, he was amazing in that World Cup.
I'm trying to justify Steinberg's point
here. It was a mistake. Steinberg made a mistake.
But it's not my mistake anyway, which is the most important thing here.
Absolutely. Let's move on. We want to talk rally, and Craig Breen is on the line to talk to us about an unbelievable achievement at the weekend in Sweden, where he finished second in the World Rally Championship event. Craig, good morning to you. How are you doing?
Not so bad, guys. How are you?
So, the snow, this is the main snow event in the World Rally Championship. No doubt it presents a particular challenge, but you obviously quite like it.
Yeah, it's a unique event. It's the only full winter rally that we get in the championship, so it's special event. We do the rally on big studded tyres. 8mm studs, metal studs on each tyre, 380 odd of them, and gives us a lot of grip, even more than we'd get in traditional summer events on gravel. So it's really, really nice rally. And
is that something that over the years you just get better and better at, or from the get-go were you like, I actually quite like driving on snow?
I'd done it quite a lot when I was younger. It's sort of the natural way to start to learn how to drive a rally car. It's normally to drive on a frozen lake because you've got you've got nothing to hit basically, so you can drive around and you can create your own track on a lake, and it's your way of naturally making mistakes without being punished. So it's a really good way to discover a car's potential and how everything works. So it's where I started. It's where a lot of people would have started. But when you try and do that inside in the forest at 200 kilometers an hour and you've got trees brushing by, it's the margins are a bit less. And where would you go to find conditions like that, Craig? I presume there's not too many frozen lakes a lot of the year round down in Waterford. No, definitely not. No, it's all Scandinavia. All of the testing and all of the preparation for that event was done in northern Sweden. So it's specific for that region. It's been actually difficult for the last number of years. The rally's been close to be cancelled because of the weather's been too mild, and there hasn't been enough snow. But this year was exceptional. It was really, really good conditions, and it was enjoyable.
At what stage over the course of the weekend did you think, actually I'm at it this week and I'm feeling really comfortable, and I'm going a bit quicker than everybody else here?
It's that realisation that things are working. Quite early in the event, I had a really, really nice feeling, and we had obviously the shakedown, which is like a little test on the Thursday before the rally, and I wasn't so happy with everything there. I wasn't so happy with the car, and our speed wasn't fantastic. So I didn't start the event full of confidence, but about 2 or 3 corners into the first stage on Friday morning, I arrived a bit too fast into one corner, and I really thought that I was going to go off the road, but everything stuck, everything felt really nice, and I tried it again on the next corner, and that felt good, and I just carried that momentum and that rhythm all the way through the rally, and it worked. So it was really, really nice weekend.
The way you're talking about it, it sounds like most of it is feel as opposed to something more technical than that. Like, is that actually the case? Is it legit? Yeah, okay, I feel like my body feels okay, as opposed to I need to hit that specific part of the corner at that speed to be able to make it out.
Yeah, rallying is a bit different. It's not like circuit racing. Circuit racing is very fine. It's a very fine art, very minute details, and to exploit the absolute maximum out from a track. Let's say it's a lot more machine than man. Whereas in rallying, it takes so much confidence. So we're barreling down public roads, at 130 miles an hour, and we need to feel confident. We need to feel safe, and it's a lot about feeling and being able to let that just let your body do naturally what it feels, and not think about all the the things on the side of the road, or other factors that could cloud your mind. You're just driving by pure feel, and that's when the results really start to come.
And how do you get into that zone? Like, because does it takes a couple of corners for you to feel that, or like when you get into the car, say on the final day of the weekend, because you've had a couple of good days, are you already automatically back in the zone?
Yeah, obviously at the end of the weekend, you're very much into the flow of things. It's easier, but yeah, when you start, that's like what I said. The first couple of corners in the first stage, things just went well. That's really how your weekend is shaped. Your first feeling in your first proper stage on a new road that you haven't seen, and if everything feels well there, and you have a car working underneath you that's giving you confidence, then that, like I said, that shapes your whole weekend, and this weekend that worked out for me.
The other weird thing is that you've got somebody in your ear the whole time, so it's not distracting, and yet it's kind of very important that you're paying attention to what's going on over here. Not as much as obviously it's important you're paying attention to what's going on in front of you, but how do you get that balance between I'm listening to what you're telling me 3 corners down the line and actually a bit further, but I'm still just feeling this corner, so shut up for a second. How does that work?
It's a fine art. It's a fine art on the delivery from the co-driver as well. He needs to know how much information I can process at any one time. So, but to be honest, the sport has changed its shape slightly in the last couple of years, and technology has very much creeped in. And obviously, the way it works, we're driving on public roads, closed obviously at the time, but they're public, normal everyday roads, and we get what's called a recce on the Tuesday and Wednesday before the rally. We get 2 passes just at normal road speed, maximum like 60 or 70 k's an hour. But when we're doing that, we have a camera inside in the car, just behind, like in between the two of us, recording everything. And when the recce finishes, we go back to the hotel and we watch and watch and watch and watch over and over and over, and try to learn the stages as best we can. And to be honest, in the rally, it's more of a confirmation, like, I'm there, that's that place, It's just for me not to get confused, that I'm not in the, I'm thinking of somewhere else. So I've already got a rough image, and then Scott is confirming it then by what he's saying. So that's a completely different shape to the sport how it was, 15 years ago. There was pure pace, drivers were, driving blind. So it's changed the sport somewhat.
How long is each track that you're basically trying to develop the photographic memory of? Is there a standard length, or does it vary from venue to venue?
It varies. You can have like some rallies, like Mexico, for example. They've gone extreme. Sometimes you have 60-kilometer stages, and then Corsica in France have had 50-kilometer stages there. And to try and remember every single corner is difficult. And bearing in mind that's just one stage. Like there was 19 stages in Sweden, so to try and remember, it was 350 kilometers of stages. To try to remember every single corner and to cram it all in, it's a bit tricky.
It seems to me that the more challenging the stage, the longer the stage, the more information you have to process, the more that actually works in your favour. Yeah, it does, and it's something that I've really tried to work hard on over the last couple of years, and to try to remember as best as I can. And to be honest, it's something I always struggle with. Memory games, or even as a kid, I was terrible. I couldn't. If you gave me a pattern and tried to do it, 10 seconds later, I couldn't remember. But
stages I can remember really well, and I can build up a big picture. And I think that's one of the best strengths that I have at the moment. So yeah, I hope I don't get any knocks in the head. It might knock that good straight out of me.
Craig, what's the crack with the car? So I'm given to understand that you won't have it for the next couple of races. What is that situation? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a bit of a political nightmare. If I'm to be, completely honest. Sebastian Loeb, the 9-time world champion, he has a rich and rich and successful history with the PSA group with Citroën over the years. Obviously, he won his 9 world titles with Citroën. And he retired at the end of 2012, and as always, tempted to come back and do something. And this year, lo and behold, he decided to go back, and he wants to do 3 rallies. So unfortunately, budget is quite tight at the moment in the PSA group. So it means that I have to give up my car for 3 rallies, and 2 of them are one after the other. So Mexico in the next rally I won't do, and then my absolute favourite rally of the year in Corsica, I won't do it either. So it's a bit of a shame, to be honest. Yeah. I'm
sure it's a bit of a pain, and like coming off the back of an amazing result like that, it's probably more of a pain. But at least you have just had an amazing result to go, well, I'm pretty good. yeah, it is good. It's probably the best way for it to happen. But still, when you build up that momentum and you build up that confidence, you like to carry it forward onto the next one. And now I've got to stop for 2.5 months. So to be politically correct about the whole thing, it's out of my hands, and the team are 150% behind me. But this is something that's been decided by the hierarchy, and we can't do anything about it.
How does that situation fix itself, Craig? If you wanted to race for the entire season, what is the solution here?
Money. Yeah, money is the solution to everything. So it's an expensive sport, and that's why it differs from a lot of other mainstream sports, that the financial input that goes into it is huge. And it's not only talent that gets you to the top. You have to fall into the right place at the right time with the right backing and people around you. So that's simply how it is. So it's a funny sport. I can't go into the garden and practice it. If I want to go and drive my car for a day, it's the guts of 50,000-60,000 euros a day just to drive the car if I want to do it. So yeah, it's you have to take every single opportunity you can to drive the car and get the most of every single mile you get.
You must be getting to a level though where there are constructors who want you in their car. Like, to finish second in that obviously is, you're reaching a peak in your career where everybody goes, well, Craig Breen's really good. I want to get him in my car. Is that what happens next? Hopefully Sebastian Loeb retires properly next season and this isn't an issue. But is that how this works? I guess most people would be relatively familiar with Formula One, where a driver becomes good and becomes prized and then has a bit of bargaining power with the constructors who go, yeah, I want you in my car because my car's really fast and you're a good driver. Is it vaguely similar to that? Like, are you an independent contractor at the end of this year who can then go somewhere else, or can renegotiate with Citroën and say, well, look, I need to be the #1 driver going forward? How does that work?
Yeah, basically like that. Exactly the same as Formula One. It's all swings and roundabouts. And yeah, I signed a 2-year contract with Citroën at the end of 2016. So that'll run out at the end of this year. And they've got an option on me for next year. But yeah, it'll be. We'll be sitting around a few tables, coming towards the end of the year and trying to, see what's the best package moving forward. But of course, I'd like to stay where I am. I've built up a good relationship with them now over the years, and but yeah, it'll hopefully we'll have a good option on the table that'll bring us a little bit closer to our main goal.
There's also the relationship you have with the car. I'm sure if you had to leave the Citroën C3, it's learning how to drive, not learning how to drive, but learning the feel for another car. You've mentioned to yourself that you're a driver who depends on feel a good bit. I presume that's like learning a new craft entirely, especially when you're used to the minutiae of rally driving so much that to go from a Citroën C3 to a completely different model would be a huge task.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get so used to driving a car, and especially with the C3. I was involved in the testing process from day one, so the car has been shaped around myself and Chris Meek from Dungannon in the north. He's obviously the other driver, so it's been shaped around the two of us. And we all know its traits and how it works, and each car has got its own specific way to work, and even little things that all the cars aren't the same shape, so their aero balance and their aero package, and how the cars work at high speed are all different, and that for sure takes a long time to dial in. So that's another factor where I'd like to stay where I am if I could.
How did you get into this, Craig? Like when you're a kid, given that it's obviously unbelievably expensive, you don't start there, but how do you get to the point where you're like, that's what I want to do, that's my career path, and I want to end up in World Rally?
Drowned in it. My dad was twice national champion in Ireland, and followed him around every single ditch in the country, and in the back of service vans, been holding up stacks of tyres on the way up the road to rallies and things like that. So it's all I've ever known. And I started in kart racing when I was 8. That's the youngest age you can be to do any form of motorsport in Ireland is karting. So the minute I turned 8 years of age, I was doing that, and I raced karts right up until I was 18. And then straight into a rally car, and it's all been fairly whirlwind since I was 8 years of age. I've been involved in some breed of motorsport.
Were you quick in karts? Did you know that actually I can do this and I'm good enough?
Yeah, I was. How can I say? I won the Irish Championship maybe 2 or 3 other times. I'm not 100% sure. And then I went on to British and European and finally World Championship karting. But my heart was always in rallying, and that was my weakness. I couldn't see my end goal being in Formula 1. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel and going to Formula 1 because that's not me. I'm not. How can I say? It's a different breed of people who go to circuit racing, and it's a totally different breed of people compared to rallying. And I think the motivation wasn't there to get all the way in circuit racing and then karting. But the minute I got into a rally car, within the first mile or two of drive, I'm like, no, this is me, and just leave me go, and this is what I want to do.
And so when something like the weekend happens, it must be a massive national celebration for everybody in Ireland who goes karting, goes rallying, and who sees effectively one of their own make it to the very top.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to think so. It's been very humbling, all the messages and seeing all the support we've got since the weekend, and it's not a mainstream sport, so it falls very much under the radar sometimes. But I think it's really starting to turn a little bit. People are starting to take a bit more notice, and now it's really nice. But the sport is live all weekend from start to finish. So it's you can watch every single stage online at any point during the weekend. So it's not this hidden sort of dirty sport that's in a forest somewhere. No one knows that it's happening. It's in people's faces now. And that's great, and it helps all the way back to grassroots. If people know about the sport, it's easier to get sponsorship. It's easier to get packages together to get new people up to the sport. So it's if my profile and what I'm doing can build a sport in Ireland and build a sport for everybody else coming up, then I'd be more than happy.
And so, what are you going to do with your 2.5 months off?
I have 2.5 months off. Yeah, it's a bit strange. I've got to go to Mexico as the next rally. I have to go there and do some work with the TV, so I've got to go and watch everybody do it, which won't be easy. And I'll have a test before the next rally in Argentina in April, and that's me back on the bandwagon again.
So you're going to become a commentator for the next race?
Yeah, it's something that normally happens if a driver is sidelining an event. They'll bring them in as an expert view, but it'll be a bit tough to watch watch everybody.
You'll be like, that Sebastian Loeb guy, he used to be really good. I'm not sure he's got it anymore though.
Something like that. Yeah. I'll put a few sly ones on the side.
But listen, congratulations. It's an absolutely amazing story. Keep it up, and I hope that the next 2.5 months are okay for you, but we can't wait to see you back in the car. Thanks a million.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you.
It's Craig Breen there with an unbelievable story.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Like he mentions there that it sometimes goes under the radar, but when it's on the radar, you realise how unbelievably the people who are big into rally are about the sport. I certainly see it down in Killarney on Maybank holiday weekend when the Rally of the Lakes is in town. The town just gets taken over by people, the rally drivers, essentially, the people who are wannabe rally drivers. Sometimes it can be a little bit tough for the authorities trying to stop people doing donuts and stuff in big areas. But other than that, it's usually just people who are very, very passionate about this thing, who love to get out there and watch this happen. And most of them are locals who are just not really hopping on a bandwagon as such. They're big into this thing, and it is the highlight of their year. So to say that there's not a lot of passionate people about it is a complete lie in this country. It's that is the way it is, and it's great to see Craig Breen doing his thing, and hopefully, as you say, this thing will get resolved pretty soon, and we'll see him having a full season. Basically, would be a good start.
Yeah, no, fair play to him for like being fairly open about the situation as well. It must be a real pain in the nuts. Like, the most famous guy in the world wants your car. Got to give it to him for 3 races.
Yeah, and it's a blessing in disguise, the timing of it as well, because as you mentioned, it's grand because his stock is still high. He's not going to suffer too much from the 2.5 months. But at the same time, his stock is so high, you want to get back in that car straight away. You want to go to, it's a Corsica and then Mexico. Like, you want to be in those races, particularly in Mexico, where you'd imagine there's going to be a huge volume of people there to watch you do your thing. Like, I know I'm kind of generalising here, but Mexico have had Formula 1, for example. I presume they're big into their motorsports in the entire country as a whole. So, like that is the one that once you get over to that side of the Atlantic, for sure.
Tommy Byrne ended up in Mexico, and for a fair portion of his career, that's where he tells the story about he knows it's at the end when he's in Mexico, but there seems to be like a proper Mexican circuit.
Sure, there is. Like, I think once you're racing over there, I'd imagine it's just almost a different world entirely when it comes to motorsport. So it's a huge shame to be missing that. But I guess the consolation is that his stock is really high now. It's not going to fall too far.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely keep an eye on Craig, and talk to him again in advance of the next time he gets into the car. So, yeah. Right, we'll leave that one there for now. Keith Andrews, the Keith Andrews Football Show, live with you every Thursday afternoon on Facebook. So go to facebook.com/offtheball and like and follow there. Or better still, actually, just subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll turn your notifications on. We'll send you a notification anytime we're live. And you can watch all of our good stuff in elongated form right there. Stephen Kelly is going to join him in studio this week to talk to him about his
not
career.
Commonplace, but not.
So here's the bit from last night where the lads were talking about tunnel brawls and how not commonplace but frequent they were during Keith's career.
Not commonplace, but not as my career went on. When I first started, it was a few times a season there would be dust-ups, and it would be very regular where you would hear on the pitch, if it wasn't me, certainly I wasn't saying it when I was very young, but as I got into the kind of flow, I would throw the odd comment around. But you would hear, I'll see you in the tunnel very, very frequently. I remember one reserve game I played in some rough area of Birmingham in the Birmingham Senior Cup against a non-league team, senior men. I think I was about 18 or 19, and I had to play centre-half because of injuries. And this big bruiser said, I'm going to see you at half-time, and I just thought, yeah, okay, whatever, because I kept on going through the back of him, nicking him or whatever. Yeah. He was waiting, and I was bricking it on my own.
You walk into the tunnel, he's standing there.
Walk into the tunnel. It was a non-league ground, so it wasn't exactly the length of even Wigan's tunnel, but bricking it. Went marching towards me, gripped me, kicked off a little bit, thankfully.
Did he throw a dig?
He was gripping me, and then he threw one, and then we scuffled.
So did he catch you nicely?
Yeah, he caught me, yeah. He was a grown man, I was a kid.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I was, well...
And did you throw punches back?
Yeah, I got a couple in.
Right.
But it was...
Who came off worst? You, obviously.
Oh, I definitely came off worst, yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. And I was so relieved that it got broken up. And
what happened when the second half started? Did he, when you see him in the second half, does he say, I'm going to get you again? Or is it referenced that
I was playing directly up against him. It was those days 4-4-2, two centre halves.
So what does he say in the second half when you see him again?
He was lively as in the second half, and to be fair, you can't back away from it. So on the pitch I was full on. Yeah. I just made sure when we were going off the pitch there was a few people around me.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's terror.
Like, wow, okay. So what happens here? So is it a headlock is what I want to know. What sort of technique is he using that allows Keith to get a couple in? And what is a couple in? What constitutes it? Like, okay,
six, maybe 10.
So Keith was bad off. How damaged was he?
Dublin couple.
How damaged was his opponent?
Grand enough to go back out on the pitch in the second half, and the referee going, you two both got black eyes at half time. Never heard that happen. The Keith Andrews Show live from 12:30 on all our social channels this Thursday coming. Stephen Kelly's in studio, and the Champions League obviously is something for them to get their teeth into and to look back on. We'll preview tomorrow night's Champions League action on tomorrow's show, and we'll also look back at the Barcelona visit to Stamford Bridge tonight on tomorrow's show. It is a big night on the radio tonight, of course. We'll give you more details on our road show, which is pretty much sold out at this point. On Friday night, it is Serge Betson is going to be our special guest alongside Brian O'Driscoll and Keith Wood. and Martin Williams to help us preview the Wales game. We're going to be announcing another roadshow very, very soon in advance of the England game, so stay tuned to all our social channels to make sure that you get advance notice and for your opportunity to get tickets for that one, because these ones went really, really quickly, so you don't want to miss out on the next one too. Andy Lee is going to be in studio from 7:30 on Off the Ball tonight, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That's pretty much all we've got time for. Oh, good job today.
Thank you.
Good, solid 5 out of 10.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 is what I'd take. I mean, it's like the David Moyes day is what I'd like to call today.
6.5.
Well, it was kind of a weird day where we suggested that Bob Geldof should go into Eddie Jones's rugby camp.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the day.
These shows are long when you're so strung out on lack of sleep as we are.
Yeah, but we'll always have those memories where we suggested that Bob Geldof could be a Trojan horse for Ireland rugby.
Good luck.